So these are my 10 tips for surviving college as a conservative. If you want to experience real discrimination, try being a conservative minority. And by minority, I mean, of course, in liberal colleges and universities, conservatives certainly are a minority of, it doesn't matter what race or religion you belong to. If you are a conservative, you are a minority. So I'd like to start with a definition of discrimination here so we can be clear on what I'm talking about. So dictionary.com defines discrimination as treatment or consideration of, or making a distinction in favor of or against a person or thing based on the group, class, or category to which that person or thing belongs to, rather than on individual merit. So what this says is that when your liberal peers judge you at the outset for being a conservative, when they're not willing to engage in some real discourse or conversation with you, and instead they just they'll blast you on social media, or they'll call you a racist or a sexist or a homophobe or any of the other buzzwords of the day. What they're really doing is, in fact, discrimination. These are the people who claim to be against discrimination and for free speech, when in fact they are very much against free speech, and they are very much in favor of discrimination, as long as it suits their beliefs and their opinions. So I'm going to start with, these are 10 ways to survive being a conservative at a liberal school, or in a liberal workplace, or anywhere where your peers, the majority of your peers are liberal. So number one is you have to stay true to yourself. So no matter what happens, if you're surrounded by people that have these radical liberal views, and it's going to seem like you're one in a million, it is, what you need to do is don't fall prey to their illogic. Stay true to what you really believe in. Okay? So what do I mean by that? I mean, stay sincere with yourself. The things that you believe and the opinions that you have are important, and they if they resonate with you, you should be holding on to them very tightly. Don't let them go just because of peer pressure. Okay? That's number one, first and foremost. Because there is tremendous pressure to leave your ideology and to leave your politics behind, just so you can quote unquote fit in at your college, and if you wanted to be invited out to drinks and things like that. Now you're going to make enemies. That's number two, is to understand that you will absolutely make enemies. This comes back to the discrimination point. So if they are truly discriminatory against you for your conservative principles, then they're not going to like you. They're not going to, that means the majority of people probably aren't going to like you, just based on that. Now, there are I'm not saying that all liberals are discriminatory. There are many. I have a lot of liberal friends that, even though we differ on politics, I can still go out and have a beer with them or whatever. They're not too extreme. That we don't always talk about politics, but there are many, the 90% of them, at least, that won't even give you the time of day. Even if you're not discussing politics, once they know what your politics are, they're going to marginalize you, and they're not going to include you. So that's number two. So understand that you do have freedom of speech. This is number three. If your teacher is kind of drawing outside the lines of free speech and is politicizing the class, or propagandizing the students, trying to silence your opinion, or they oftentimes they'll mock you, or they'll if you participate in a discussion where the majority of people don't agree with your position, they will marginalize you, and they're going to try to make you feel like you're stupid, or you're they're so much more intelligent than you, and you're just you'll come around eventually. The whole idea of you may not understand it now, and you maybe but in the future you're going to come around to it, and so they're just going to be nice to you because of that, but it's in a sort of a pandering way. Understand what they're doing, and stand up for your right to free speech. So make your opinions heard. That's very, very important. Definitely speak out. Absolutely. You have to have grit to be a conservative in a liberal college. You have to have thick skin. Number 4 is don't be overtaken by political correctness. Okay, this is a big one. So you have to state your true opinions. Now, your true opinions, obviously, as conservatives, a lot of it goes against political correctness, and I hate that term, but what you have to do is just understand that you're going to be called, a racist. You're going to be called a bigot. You're going to be called lots of things. So you have to. This is where the thick skin comes into play. You have to not be overtaken by the desire to conform to political correctness. So don't water down your opinions. Don't water down your logic, and don't water down your arguments to fit in this box of political correctness, because it's very hard to do as a conservative, because political correctness obviously skews very, very far to the left. So it's political correctness is a covert way of saying, in the sense of political correctness, if you don't agree with them politically, you're not politically correct. That is what political correctness means at its root. To me, that's what it means to me. Okay. Now, you also have to be open to listening to others. So you need to definitely stay calm when if you ever get involved in a political conversation. Let other people talk. They often aren't going to they're going to try not to let you talk as much. But, just definitely stay calm. The facts are on your side. Just remember that the facts are on your side. So as long as you know your facts, you will never have a problem with any liberal moderator, any liberal teacher, any political argument as far as that goes. That's the next one, is know your facts. You have to know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, because they use so much ridicule, and they try to belittle, and they like I say, discriminate. They're going to try to make you feel stupid. So you have to know what you're talking about. Don't get defensive is the other. Don't get defensive if you're in a political discussion. Don't get because that comes off as a sign of weakness, and that you're not. Anybody who's defensive is not steadfast in their positions, in their arguments. They don't either they don't believe them fully, or they're not confident in them, because they feel that they don't know enough to remain confident in them. They feel that they're just waiting for the other side to pull a fact that maybe they're not familiar with. If you're not familiar with something, be honest about it. Say, I'm not familiar with that. I would have to do some research there. So don't try to talk about things you don't understand, or that you don't have a good enough grasp on to have to win the debate. You want to win the debate. It's not just know enough, so that you don't seem like you're stupid. It's know enough that you can win. You want to win. Definitely want to win. That's the next point, is that the goal is to win the argument. The goal is always to win the debate. Okay? We will always win the debate as conservatives. The facts are on our side. If we can remain composed, and we can remain, if we can keep our ideas together, and we can eloquently bring them across the table, we will always win. Always win. Just based on the merit of fact alone. Facts will always win the debate. Facts are always on our side. Don't give off the impression that you're closed-minded to other ideas. This is something that, even though we're not closed-minded to differing opinions, that's a conservative stereotype. So you want to steer away from that if you can. Don't, it comes back to being defensive. Don't be too defensive. Keep an open mind. At least, appear to have an open mind. If they're dead wrong, they're dead wrong, but you need to at least be willing to consider their opinions, and no matter how asinine they may be. Because if you don't, you fall into that stereotype, or you risk falling into that stereotype that conservatives are afraid of change, or they're overly aggressive and things like that. So they're going to get upset with you. So liberalism is very emotional. It's not a logical ideology. It's an emotional ideology. So oftentimes they're going to get emotional with you, and they're going to get angry. They're going to get upset. They're going to yell. They're going to, sometimes if you could get, they'll physically wave stuff in your face. Like, you're filming, if you're filming at a protest and you're interviewing some of the people there, they're going to, if they don't want to hear your opinion, which many of them don't, without even stating their case, they'll just be rambunctious and outrageous. And we see this a lot from the feminist movement, where you present them with facts and figures, and they're not interested in that. They just yell and scream and be aggressive and stuff like that. So let them get angry, let them be emotional. This is what they thrive off of, because it's what their ideology is based on. It's based on emotions. It's not based on facts. So you have to let them have that way. Don't be the emotional one. Don't get overly. Now, we as conservatives definitely are emotional, and we definitely do care a lot emotionally about our arguments, and we're very passionate about a lot of them. So just let them be that way. Let them show it. Kind of be, you should be the calm one. Just keep the arguments interesting and keep presenting the evidence to them in a way that makes sense. And if they want to get emotional, let them, because there's nothing you can do to change that. So somebody, for instance, who wants to expand the welfare state, because they believe, emotionally, they believe that everybody deserves, a minimum pay, okay, which economically doesn't make sense, and it's economically a disastrous policy. But so I would agree with them on the premise that, we don't want people to be poor, and I can definitely agree with that. Then give the argument a conservative spin. So let them know that we are after the same goal, but we're going about it differently. So we're after the same goal of, eradicating poverty. We don't want poverty, of course. But while they may be going about it via big government and via welfare programs and entitlements and things like that, we would be going about it in a capitalist way. So in a way that doesn't undermine freedom and doesn't cost the taxpayer, in a way that people can willingly create value in the marketplace and thereby increase their income and increase their net worth. So just give an alternative to the argument. So we do agree. I would agree on the point in that case. I agree on the point that we want to eradicate poverty, and we need some change there. But we disagree in how we're going to go about that. So present your case on the premise that you agree with their original grievance. Now, you don't have to agree with all the grievances. A lot of the grievances, and most of them, are just nonsense. Obviously there is an issue with poverty. Okay, it's not good. We don't like people being poor. We don't want that. But the way to go about it is not through welfare and government assistance. If their grievances are race-based, the whole feminist, the patriarchy, and the grievances like that, at the outset, I definitely don't, because you're throwing away your argument if you agree with their premise right there off the bat. So you have to be selective in which premises you will expand on, and which you will accept, and which you won't. So the premises of the in terms of feminism, of the patriarchy and things, I would throw that right out at the outset. So if they say, well, what's your solution to the wage gap? So immediately I disagree with that premise. The wage gap is meaningless. Every economist who has ever looked at it cannot find the wage gap. It doesn't really exist when you account for differences in lifestyle choices and things like that between men and women. It narrows almost to zero. So they really only make a difference by a couple of percent. So I would throw out the premise right away. I wouldn't say I agree there's a wage gap, but my method of dealing with that is different. I wouldn't agree with that there is no wage gap. It doesn't exist. So that would be my entire argument. So they would have to prove to you that the wage gap does exist in order for their argument to be valid. Now, they cannot obviously do that because the facts are not on their side. So, and this is when, at that point in the argument, they would become emotional, most likely. And, they would just spew the party line at you. That but if and be creative with your arguments too. So a good one for the wage gap is that if I think I heard, who did I hear this from? I think Milo Yiannopoulos. If the wage gap was, I'm not quoting, but if the wage gap was, if it did exist, then why would employers not fire all their male employees and hire only female employees if they could pay 23% less? It would be good business. And they couldn't give you an answer to that. Find the other conservatives on your campus. Find the other conservatives. You can't be alone. If you're completely alone in the fight, if you're completely alone, it really wears you down. It's really tough. So if you're surrounded by liberal friends, maybe you should be looking for a new group of friends, because there are conservatives on campus. I promise you that. They are out there. You just have to find them. A good way to do that is through social media. And the other, don't talk politics all the time. I'm kind of bad for that. Everything. I'm a political junkie, so I talk politics, all the time. I love debating people, but if you need other people that are on your side, because if it's you against a room full of 50 people, and you don't have anybody else that can back you up, or that can back up your facts, or say maybe consider what he's saying, it wears you down. As right as you may be, it definitely wears you down. So and maybe it won't for you. It doesn't wear me down because I have thick skin, and I can, even though I'm the only one who agrees, if I'm in a room full of 50 people and we're having a political discussion, and if I disagree with almost everybody there because they're of a different political stripe than me, I'm okay with that because I can expect it, and but it definitely does help to have conservative friends, to have other people on your side, so that you're not always the one man wolf pack, which you won't be. I'm promising you that. If there are conservatives on campus, you can find them. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. If you like this video, why don't you subscribe to my channel? Click right down there, and that way you can hear from me some more, and you'll get updates when I upload new videos. So subscribe, come on, new channel, woo, exciting, come on, just do it.